Welcome, evolutionaries. I am Joe Heller, and I am crazy excited that you're here today because today we're going to go down the rabbit hole in a very deep and unique way. So today we're going to talk about the chakras, but it's the chakras in a way that I'm going to dispel what has been taught. Now, I've got other things my guides have shared with me that are just as big, but today I'm going to really shatter the current beliefs on the modern chakra system. This has never been taught before, not publicly, and not with what I am going to share with you. I don't know if it's ever been taught outside of 1,000 years ago. And it was so earth-shaking to me what my guides shared with me. And they've kept me up writing volumes of this information. And then I had to go and check on different search engines to actually understand exactly what they had told me to verify it was true. And then the other day, actually 2 nights ago, they woke me up and they gave me all this sacred geometry and math, which I was able to apply to these teachings. And they said, now is the time to break the spell. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to dispel a myth, a curse that had been placed over the spiritual community globally for several hundred years. So with that, let's get started. So this was hidden in plain sight. So let me start with something that to create a preface. So most of you who are in America know that the founding fathers of the United States were Masons. Those of you who are outside of America may not be familiar with that. And today, Masonry has a very bad name. It is tied to the Illuminati. And so all that is true. But what you don't know is the brotherhood, the fraternity of Masonry was once a very noble and enlightened organization, going all the way back to King Solomon. And the founding fathers of America, George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, etc., were all Masons. But what many people do not know is the Illuminati penetrated the Masons. They, like a virus, they corrupted this noble brotherhood, took it over, and while the founding fathers, very illuminated beings of America, renounced Masonry. Now, you won't find that in too many books, but I can guarantee you that the founding fathers renounced their ties to Masonry once the Illuminati corrupted it. So what does all that mean? Well, as I've talked to you about in the previous video, I kind of hinted with Tesla. And Tesla was a very illuminated being himself, just the greatest inventor, the greatest mind of all time. And when he did not cooperate, wealthy people, stepped in to steal and corrupt his inventions. And actually, a lot of his patents have components that are purposely missing so no one could ever utilize the full potential of his inventions. And everything he did was in his mind. Tesla was a genius, but Tesla was a student of the Vedas. So he studied Vedic teaching. And through that Vedic teaching, he began to understand the power of 369, which is one of the things that I mentioned in the last video, because 9 is access to, it's the golden gate. It is the access to the gate to God. Now, what does Tesla and, again, Helen P. Blavatsky have in common? Again, they studied the Vedas. But Helen, and she's an amazing woman. Matter of fact, she is the only woman, and for those of you who are not familiar with HPB, she is really someone you should idolize, because she is a woman who is the only woman that has ever been taught by the Tibetan masters. She traveled the world in search of mystical, arcane knowledge, that this gnosis, this wisdom that she could bring forth to the world. And yet, her teachings were stolen, just like many of Tesla's inventions. So again, they studied this Vedic cosmology, And the key here in the Vedic cosmology, because it has ties to 9, is 108. So let me kind of run through some of the quick examples of these very ancient Vedic teachings as they tie to 108. So 108 is the diameter of the sun is 108 times that of Earth. How would they know that thousands of years ago? Brilliant people who were tied into a direct current into the God force. The distance between the Earth and the sun is 108 times the diameter of the sun. 108 seems to be a pretty important number. The distance between the Earth and the moon is 108 times the diameter of the moon. The Sri Yantra, which is a dimensional model, most people look at it as a two-dimensional model, but it's actually it's actually a multi-dimensional model, but they can't really put it because it goes beyond and into the etheric, but it has 54 marmads, which both represent male and female, so 54 obviously times 2 is 108. Vedic astrology, long before Western astrology, has 12 houses times 12 planets equals 108. There's 108 Upanishads. There are 54 letters in Sanskrit, again, both male and female, equaling 108. And there's a tremendous amount of more information, more tie-ins to this ancient number, this sacred, very sacred number of 108. And you'll understand why I'm talking about 108 in just a second. So why is 108 very important in this dispel? Well, remember, you've got the Masons, HPV, and her teachings were corrupted, and her teachings were brought into and created by the Theosophical Society. So the Theosophical Society was infiltrated, very much like the Masons. And the best way to control, this is a quote, something I wrote down as my guides were talking to me, the best way to control the enlightened is through idol worship when they don't know they're worshiping idols. So let me kind of give you a quick rundown of how this happened. Because, again, the teachings of Helena Blavatsky were stolen and corrupted because she had the original knowledge of the chakras and what they represented, and those teachings were hidden by the Theosophical Society once it had been corrupted, because the Theosophical Society was owned by Lucifer Publishing Company, and was founded in the early 1900s. And again, HPB died in 1891, meaning that they took her teachings after her death and corrupted her teachings. And what's interesting about Lucifer Publishing Company is that its address in the day, and they've actually changed the address today, is 666 United Nations. And actually, believe it or not, the United Nations original address was 866. 666. Today it is 866. And some of you may be going, Joe, you're getting a little far out there. I know I have to give some backstory in order to convey how important this is. So the first person to write about the chakras, remember Lucifer Publishing, was Sir John Woodruff. He wrote the book Serpent Power. Serpent Power was a translation of ancient Sanskrit teachings. And what he wrote was there were 7 chakras in the body, including a crown chakra. Now, in ancient Sanskrit, there is no such thing as a chakra that resides outside of the body. Every chakra needs to be able to be passed through by Kundalini. And I talked a little bit about Kundalini last time in a different way to look at it from activating the third eye, and I'll probably go deeper into that. But it's important for you to understand that John Woodruff was under contract with Lucifer Publishing, and the book he wrote called Serpent Power was actually published by Ganesh and Company, which is a publishing company in Madras, India, which happens to be the sister company of Lucifer Publishing. See any ties? Then the second book, which really created this worldwide distribution of the 7 chakra system, was by C.W. Ledbetter, The Chakras, in 1927. Now, what you need to understand about C.W. Ledbetter, because he is considered to be a great spiritual teacher and influence, and really because of this book, his ideals, or the original ideals set forth by Woodruff, spread around the world. Now, what you, again, need to understand is that in 1906, C.W. Ledbetter admitted to being a pedophile on record. He was a person of interest by the police for the rest of his life. One of the other things that's important to note is the Rockefellers, as I mentioned, the Theosophical Society was infiltrated as a virus takes over the host body, was on the original board. And he kept Ledbetter from, or Leadbetter, or however you pronounce his name. It doesn't really matter because he's a sick individual, from going to jail. And one of the most important ways that I can demonstrate this, and you can Google this, is Krishnamacharya, really the father of yoga, the man who revolutionized spiritual teachings, called Ledbetter the most evil man on earth, pure evil. He said there was not a person who walked on this planet that had ever been as evil as Ledbetter. And there's actually some writings that talks about how this pedophile sexually abused Krishnamacharya when he was a child. But again, do your own research. But from the fact that he admitted to being a pedophile on record with the police, that is absolutely true, and being inappropriate with children. So if you're thinking about the chakra system we have now, really understand that these people are very evil people that brought these teachings to you that are embedded in the spiritual world today. And they're false. They're not real. I am here, whatever you think. Whatever you think about this. You think, Joe, you're crazy. I am talking to you from my heart. I would not have even known any of this if my guides hadn't given me this information. So, from HPB's teachers, he took this and created a cult. And remember, the key word in a cult is the word cult control, because the Rockefellers, Kissinger was also on the board of the Theosophical Society, and other named Illuminati members were on the board. This is not looking at Lucifer in the olden ways as the morning star. This is looking at Lucifer as Satan and using something to control the enlightened, the illumined, so that they could never fully blossom in their light. And this is very important for you to remember and understand. So let's talk about when my guides actually started giving me this information. They go, Joe. And I'm like, yeah. Because I never know what they're going to talk about. They say, Joe, you really need to, and I'm like, really need to? This is pretty interesting. They've never really kind of talked to me like that before. Divide the 1,000-petal lotus by 108. And remember, we just talked about how important 108 was, right? So I'm like, divide the 1,000-petal lotus by 108. I'm like, what the heck is that? Is that like that? Anyway, it doesn't really matter, because the important thing to know is a 1,000-petal lotus doesn't have 1,000 petals. It has 972. Now, that's an important number to remember. But first off, I also want to point out that anybody out there teaching the chakra system the way it is, the 1,000-petal lotus, has been misinformed, because teachers have been taught by other teachers who've been taught by other teachers who have not been given the information that I was given by angels. And so, or the Vedic gods, or whichever guides tuned into me in order to share this information, because this information is going to alter the face of spirituality today. So 972. So why is 972 an important number to remember? Well, if you divide 972 by 108, you get 9. Wow! What did we talk about on the first page with Tesla and how everything rolls into 108? As a matter of fact, if you do 108, you take out the 0, and 1 plus 8 equals 9. So again, 9 is hidden even in secret numerology. So 972 divided by 108 equals 9. 972 is the exalted mind. It is not the crown chakra. And it represents the exalted mind of the heart that is illuminated, which creates a golden halo. This is the halo that Buddha had, that Yeshua had. The violet crown chakra is a lie, and I'll talk more about that in a second, so stay tuned. So as we go through this is what's really important to understand, and why the math lines up to prove that it's 972 and not 1,000. And again, this has never, I repeat, never been brought forth on the internet, ever, period. So if you look at 9 plus 7 plus 2 equals 18, 1 plus 8 equals 9. 9 times 7 times 2 equals 126. 1 plus 2 plus 6 equals 9. 9 times 7, this is what we're doing, and then we're doing this, 7 plus 2 equals 9 times 9 equals 81. 8 plus 1 equals 9. This is not coincidence. This is not some random piece of luck that I made up. Trust me, if you saw my math grades when I was in college, you would be like, okay, Joe, there's no way you could ever come up with this on your own. Because I did not come up with this on my own. Now, some of the research I shared with you earlier, I did to prove up the point, but this is all given to me by source, by my angels. So again, gold is the color of the exalted mind, the color of a halo. Violet, and this is really where it gets trippy, is violet is tied to idol worship. And if you think about even the things that are hidden in plain sight, like people talk about the red pill and the blue pill. Well, guess what? What do you get when you put red and blue together? It creates a state of confusion. And that confusion is purple, is violet. Violet also, my guides were very clear with me, stand for violence. So violet is violence. You've got royalty, which seeks to control you. Their color is violet. You've got the church, the clergy, the Catholic Church, which seeks to control you. Their color is violet. And actually, I found this interesting, and this is something my guides did not give me, but in doing some research, I came across an article on quantum physics that talked about purple being the only color that has a two-dimensional quality, meaning that from a quantum aspect, it is in the lower dimensional realms, which I found fascinating. And then, of course, there's many old sayings that you can Google and find that purple, they would say, like, if you're mad, you used to say, I'm purple with rage, because purple has always been tied to rage and inciting people to do things and control people. And so what is the best way to control the worldwide spiritual tribe, the people that are chosen to rise up? Well, it's to put a shackle here of violence, of control, of confusion, to keep your exalted mind down. And it's up to us to awaken, because This is the Great Awakening. This is something that I am, it's more than passionate about. This is something that we all need to recognize, is that this was a false teaching. And so with that, I can also tell you that the colors of each and every chakra, with the exception of the throat chakra, which I find interesting, but I'll go into that, down that rabbit hole in a different video, are completely different than what you've been taught. So let me just share this with you. The red chakra, the first chakra, and actually it's not the first chakra, that's a lie. The heart is the first chakra. All the other chakras come from the heart. The heart is the sun of our solar, S-O-U-L-A-R system. And I don't want to go too crazy on this video, but the sun, the heart, is the seat of the soul. It is the heart of our soul, the sun of our solar system. The red chakra, the first chakra, is not red, it's white. And there's a reason for that, because when you go into the white light, the white is tied directly to earth. You are propagated back into the energy of reincarnation, so your soul is never actually able to escape, which is interesting, not in the sense that this is the whole reason for the knowledge that my guides give me, is to stop the reincarnation cycle, stop samsara, stop people from having to come back, the entrapment here, and have them free. So understand that the first chakra is white, it is not red. The second, the sacral chakra, is violet. So again, violet's not here, violet's here. This is where you carry your anger. And of course, the solar plexus is purple. And you're going like, Joe, this is crazy. It's like, this is like what you're telling me is completely different than everything I've ever been taught. But the math doesn't lie. And the halo, the exalted mind, this is what I'm trying to do, is free you so you can escape from the matrix. And it's not even me, it's my guides that are giving this information. I would never in a million years, as a business person, know any of this. I am not a Vedic scholar. And again, what I just showed you here with the 972, that has never been taught, at least for 3,000 years. So understand, please get this. This is so important. The 1,000-petal lotus is not a 1,000-petal lotus. It is a trap. The Crown Chakra is 972. That is the magic number, which of course delineates 9. So again, this is the Great Awakening. You are enlightened. You are illuminated. Dispel this false teaching. If you have questions, I know you're going to have questions. Ask questions in the chat box, because this is revolutionary. This video is sent to do a ripple across time and space throughout the world, because what I am bringing through are ancient Vedic truths that have been hidden from you. So is your mind blown yet? So again, HPV, her teachings were stolen. She was, again, taught directly from the masters in Tibet. So you ready to have your mind blown real quickly as I wrap up this video? Does the Dalai Lama know that the chakra system that we're using today is false? You bet. You bet. Seems like a good guy. Well, there's a lot of good perceptions of people that put on a perception. And I'm just going to say, do your due diligence. I know what my guides have told me. And based on everything that I know, I'm going to say that he made a choice. He knows exactly what I shared with you today. He knows the chakra system was corrupted, and it was infected by the Rockefellers. And he knows the colors. And why are the colors important? Well, the colors represent a frequency. And people are going to say, well, Joe, we've got the colors of the rainbow. Well, yes. And you look at the colors of the rainbow as it comes, as white light, again, comes through a prism, a spectrum to create these colors. But what you don't understand or have not considered or understand is that the chakras exist in the etheric. What they painted a picture of was light structured in the physical. And the light structured in the physical has no correlation to light in the etheric. And I know because I play in the etheric a lot. And I will come back with another video to talk about the color spectrum of the chakras. So remember, the crown chakra, the crown is not a chakra. It is a halo. It is your enlightened mind. The enlightened mind is the heart. When the Bible talks about, and other religious texts talk about thine eye be single, it's not talking about the third eye. It's talking about seeing through the place of love. You can only see through the place of love when you enact the exalted mind. The exalted mind of all is love. It is the heart. So hopefully I've proved this to you through Vedic teachings of 108 and 9. Tesla thought 9 was the most important number. The Vedics know that 9 is the most important number. They know that it is the gateway to God. It is the gateway to the exalted mind. So with that, I love you guys. I know this is kind of a crazy teaching. It may take some of you some time to digest this. Knowing that Ledbetter is a fraud. He was hired by the Rockefellers. Knowing that Woodruff was hired by the Rockefellers, and he purposely mistranslated ancient Sanskrit text to say that there are 7 chakras. There were never 7 chakras. Sanskrit text does not say that. It says that there are no such thing as a chakra outside of the body. What else can I share with you? I think that's it. So much love. Recognize that I see this amazing inner light that has been held down by these people, these very evil people. I mean, Ledbetter is an admitted pedophile on record, and people look and read his books like they're being bathed in this. Anyway, step away. Use your common sense. Meditate. Really understand what has happened. We have been deceived. We have been duped. And it's up to us to claim our power back. Our power is the 9. Step into the gate of God and unlock your true God force. And with that, I am Joe Heller. I love you guys so much. This has been a kind of a crazy teaching for me, but it's important to have it out there because what's going to happen now is that because it is public, it is sending a frequency wave, an oscillation around the planet to immediately break this curse using the forces of God and truth. So with that, I love you guys. And gosh, leave me your comments. I know they're going to be crazy because this is kind of a crazy teaching. It was crazy for me. And believe it or not, I was a little afraid to bring this forward, but my guide said that I had no choice, which is fine because as I stretch, I become something more than I am. And I've talked in my earlier teachings about stepping from one box into a bigger box to a bigger box, and then recognizing that there are no boxes, that I created the box. And that's all I'm sharing with you here is to be able to connect with the greater glory of God, the greater glory of Source, connecting with Yeshua and being able to activate your exalted mind.